Hi, my name's April Allen. I'm the president and COO of the Southern Gateway Public Green Foundation. We're the private partner in a public-private partnership with the city of Dallas, building the Southern Gateway Park, which is Dallas's next deck park over Interstate 35, adjacent to the Dallas Zoo in southern Dallas. So the problem is that we're hoping to solve with this project is that when the freeway was built back in the 60s, it divided Oak Cliff. It was a very vibrant community, but decisions were made about where freeways would go back then. And of course, communities that had limited agency and voice tended to be the ones that got split by these freeways. And so you couple that with decades of inequitable policies around education and transportation and home ownership, and the neighborhoods around the park in southern Dallas have continued to feel the effects of that inequity to this day. But our goal is to build this park with a purpose. We want to build a beautiful green space that the entire community can enjoy. There is an area in southern Dallas that has limited access to parks within walking distance. But we also hope to use the project to really spur economic growth and opportunity. I would argue that southern Dallas is the untapped opportunity to really grow the tax base in the city of Dallas. And so we hope that this investment will help to spur that type of growth and opportunity, and then also be really intentional about how the park can impact the lives of the people who live around it. And we spent a year developing an equitable development plan around how we can use the park to do just that. So the Southern Gateway Park, the idea for the park actually came from neighbors. So we love that it was a very grassroots driven idea. When TxDOT was coming out to do community meetings around their project, so TxDOT is spending about $700 million to widen Interstate 35 through southern Dallas. And when they came to do community meetings to sort of let folks know that this was coming, people in the neighborhood said, you know what, while you're here, how about we get an amenity in southern Dallas like some of the amenities that we see happening in northern Dallas. And so neighbors got together, they sort of from both sides of the freeway said, you know, we really want to champion this idea. They shopped it around to neighborhood associations, really built support with some of the elected officials in the neighborhood, and that kind of got the ball rolling. And we were able to get the park funded through, some public funds from federal transportation dollars, as well as the city of Dallas's last bond campaign. That helped to fund the bridge over the interstate. And then our foundation, the private partner, is raising the funds to build all of the amenities, all the fun stuff that will go on top of the bridge and really be the lifeblood of the park. So as I mentioned, it's a public-private partnership. Public funds came from the North Central Texas Council of Governments, which manages transportation dollars in this region. $40 million came from the Council of Governments, and then $7 million came from the city of Dallas's last bond campaign. So really the citizens of Dallas are helping to make this a reality. And then our foundation is raising another $35 million to complete the first phase of the park. So in total, that's just over $80 million on the first phase of the park. And we'll be looking to complete that by the end of this year, that fundraising process. It's really important to us that this park is a park that is heavily used by the community, certainly because it was an idea that came from community members. So we have been working hard to ensure that community members have a voice as we develop plans for the park, both from a design perspective as well as programming. And to that end, we conducted hundreds of focus groups, community meetings, had surveys, really kind of getting input from folks around how they hope to see the park develop and be used. We're taking all that input and we continue to engage with a community advisory council that was appointed from leaders on both sides of the freeway to kind of continue to give us that voice as we develop and kind of start to implement some of those development plans for the park. And it's really important to us that we execute on some of the recommendations that came from that equity plan. So it was framed in 6 pillars. History and culture, how we use the park to really reflect the unique history and culture of Oak Cliff. Education, how we can use the park to really be an extension of the school environment and also build resilience among adults in the community. Health, how we really use the park to mitigate some of the health and wellness disparities that exist in the communities surrounding it. Economic development, how we use it to kind of lift up local small businesses. We want to be really intentional about using diverse contractors when we go to construct the park. Diverse housing options was the fifth pillar, how we really can advocate for diversity of housing. So not just market rate, but also workforce housing, senior housing. And then also on the policy side, we're working with other park partners to identify any policy solutions we can get behind to support that, that goal of ensuring that the housing stock around the park is diversified, as well as that we sustain the people who currently live in the surrounding neighborhood. And then the last pillar was safe and stable neighborhoods. So how we really use the park to improve the safety and stability of the community and be really intentional about things like lighting and crosswalks, et cetera. So we have a host of recommendations that came from that plan, and we're continuing to work through the implementation of those recommendations in partnership with our Community Advisory Council, which is co-chaired by former Councilwoman Delia Hasso and Ms. Libby Lee, who leads the Golden Seeds Community Development Corporation.